What happened on the 25th of February cannot by any stretch of the imagination qualify as an election. And I speak to the way INEC systematically stole the right of the Nigerians, and the prof broke every word that he gave to Nigerians sometime last year. I remember that press conference where he famously touted the prowess of INEC and sanctity of the election conducted based on beavers. He then went on to tell us all about high rev and how we will be able to view our results in real time. But there was something interesting. Every time I've had to listen to that speech again this morning. There is something very interesting about that speech. He kept referring to the right of citizens to the sanctity of their electoral choices. The word citizen kept resounding. Every time he spoke to citizenship. And I have argued strenuously, not only on your show or your platform, but severally in books. I have said that Nigerians are not citizens. And at every opportunity that the Nigerian state and its agencies have been given to prove that we are indeed citizens, it has never failed to seize the opportunity to demonstrate the fact of our non-citizenship. We're seeing all sorts of fantastic results. We're seeing violence everywhere. None of the things promised to guarantee the sanctity of this election happened. We saw in broad daylight in places where you have cameras and people can record, people being told clearly that because you are from this ethnic side or divide, you can't vote here. Whether the person might even have wanted to vote their preferred candidate, they were unwilling to even consider that. The fact of your ethnicity simply meant that you could not vote because the state had abandoned those who should be citizens to those to whom it has subcontracted the governance of the state. And you'll see the police standing right there, not saying a word in protection of those who should be citizens. My point is very clear. The Nigerian state should simply tell us that we are not citizens. But what happened yesterday is not an election. I'm not going to tell my children that I stood by and I allowed them to label this an election. Even if you pronounce my candidate, Peter Gregory Obi, as the winner of this election, put me on record. It wasn't an election. Some people simply sat down somewhere and marched all over the rights of those they call Nigerian citizens. That's not an election. And the person, whoever comes out of this, will lack legitimacy. Let me be clear from day one. This is not an election. It was in this same country that armless protesters at the toll gate were massacred. That is the word of a panel of inquiry, not set up by me, set up by the Lagos state government. Unanimous finding. They will continue to deny that it happened, but I challenge them to deny that they paid 100 million in two tranches of 50 million in compensation to those who lost lives, the families of those who lost lives and limbs. They paid it in cash. Ask Jide Sanwo-Olu and his commissioner for information. If I'm lying, let them deny it. We beat the landlord of Bodilon, black and blue. The margin couldn't have been less than 70%. How can we have such a high turnout of voters where we were counting votes up until 1:43 a.m. and the total number of votes they are claiming is probably less than 2 million? I'm not even sure I bothered to look because everything about the figures are fictitious. We want to become citizens and they are denying us the right of citizenship. We trooped out in our numbers. Rain fell on people. My wife didn't vote until 8:43. Some people stood for the votes to count at my ward. 1:43 a.m. That was when they finished counting. Some people stood there. People in my ward, Ward 3 Ajiron, they brought generator from their homes. On their heads, they brought generator. We bought drinks for officials. We took care of ourselves. We stood. And then somebody is telling me that all of that does not count. We are simply saying that when a thief has carried something bigger than it, the homeowner needs not panic. Just sit down there and let it carry what it cannot carry now. You want to carry something that requires you asking me to open the door, and I'm sat here with superior firepower. My firepower is my assertion of my citizenship. And let's be clear, Mahmoud Yakubu, or whatever his name is, the chairman of INEC, is not worthy of conducting the election of prefectship in a school, based on the record of what he did last week, and that he cannot even admit to the widespread nature of what all of us can see. So when it comes to what General Obasanjo has said, is completely correct. First thing first, one of the reasons the Nigerian state weaponized ignorance against the Nigerian is because it wants to be able to offer them simple ideas, because it has stupefied them and turned them into simpletons who are able to grasp basic ideas. So it introduces things like this nonsense that they just said now. When we were winning in Lagos, we did not complain, but when we started losing in other places, we are now complaining. They are idiots. I'm sorry to use that word, please pardon me. But that is not meant as an abuse. It's a description of those who will bring something like that to the public space. When you are arguing with the simpletons that you have, that when they are arguing with their simpletons, they should feel free to say those kind of things. When you are talking to me, understand that I didn't go through a debauched educational system. I'm able to think, because the basis of an electoral process is trust. And that trust actually presumes that the state functions and the citizen has security to act whilst voting. We're talking about a situation where some people sat down somewhere and decided what to allocate. And then somebody is saying that this is hypocrisy. What is the hypocrisy we are talking about? That we are speaking to the evidences of our own eyes? Something Nigerians, international observers are saying the same thing. Nigerians are saying the same thing. The only people rejoicing are direct beneficiaries and the simpletons that they have managed to convince that this is for real. I'm not begging Buhari to cancel election I'm not begging him. People can talk to him. That's up to him. He created this mess. How he resolves the mess is up to him. The one thing that is not going to happen is that we would help them to deodorize the skunk. There is no way that we would accept the legitimacy of this election. What the courts do or do not do, that's entirely up to the courts. Whoever they swear in on the basis of this election will be lacking, sorely lacking in legitimacy. When it comes to brigandage, few elections in my lifetime can match this one. I'm not too sure if 1983 could be said to be worse than this. That's one. Second, no election in my lifetime has seen such brazen collusion on the part of the electoral umpire in the conduct of election. So when they are begging Buhari to come, they are asking him to save his own legacy and to save Nigeria. We have made clear, we are not going to call for protests. If and when we come to the bridges that we need to cross, we will be telling all our people, but for now, we maintain our position. This election is completely lacking in credibility. Our people should avoid any provocation that suggests to them any prompt to protest. Please, for now, stay in your space. We are percolating the issues. When we get to the point, we'll speak. But for now, stay away from any protest. For we are not fighting